Hello, colleagues. Elaine Rodriguez here, founder and director of education of Dental Laser Integrations. And I'm very excited to present this program to you this evening. Before we get into it, I'd like to give you guys a little background on me. I am a clinical hygienist here in Arizona. I've been practicing dentistry for about 17 years, and I actually started off my career in dentistry as an assistant to a prost. So super early on, I saw where gum disease led, which gave me a heart to want to get onto the preventative side. And naturally, with that path of wanting to continue to learn and grow, I developed an interest in lasers, which led me to form my company, Dental Laser Integration. So you might have seen me around the Facebook world, social media, or maybe you've even taken my class, where I'll come in, certify you. We go to teams all across the country. We work in office. We have live group settings. And as my role of director of education, I also help other aspiring continuing education providers to put together programs and really help them bring their course objectives together and bring their information to light. So I'm very excited tonight. Dr. Vo asked me to share with you some information that's really going to help bridge the discord between doctors and hygienists. We've been through a very, very troublesome year, and I just want to say I hope everybody's doing okay. As we attempt to come out of this and come back stronger than ever, I think this is the perfect time for us to look at how we're working with one another. So I actually should have titled this program, Busting the Loss Leader Dis. So this isn't really meant to get into the negative, what the doctors say, what the hygienists say, but really just more meant to bring light to either side's point of view. So now as a business owner, I can understand the weight that is on the doctor's shoulders of carrying the practice, making sure everything's in order, especially with doctors may not having an office manager that came back post-COVID and have potentially lost a lot of team members. So same with hygiene, definitely want to make sure that we can teach you some of the business nomenclature so that you can understand a little bit better what goes into the doctor's decisions as far as, do we want to invest? Can you get a raise? Can we afford to give you a raise? Where does the money come from? So before I get too far in, I want to start off with a couple of scenarios. And these are scenarios that friends have shared with me. So this is a doctor friend. He runs a very successful practice. He has 2 docs. He has 3 hygienists. And he acquired this practice from another doctor who was retiring. That doctor had a very different viewpoint of what hygiene was. So he actually did treat them as if they were just another liability to the practice. He did not create an environment where they can thrive, where they can produce, where they can do more. So Dr. Wonderful noted that the practice that where they came from was a prophy palace. So they were just doing basic hygiene. And oftentimes when we see a prophy palace, if you will, that means that you're more than likely as a hygienist not going to produce what the doctor pays you. So that means you're really just there to kind of see patients, clean teeth, and just maintain that patient relationship. So we have Dr. Amazing. And this doctor is also another good friend. They would also be called an oral physician. They're very, very talented in the areas of surgery, all on 4, all on 6 cases, just really high value dentistry. And this particular doctor has every single piece of technology in the dental world. So naturally, this doc will provide for the hygienist, but the hygienist doesn't know how to ask for help. So when I went in and worked more closely with the team, I noticed that there was a little bit of a breakdown in communication there. So it's not always that the doctor's not providing or the doctor wants to withhold or hold the hygienist back. It could oftentimes be that the hygienist doesn't have the communication skills necessary or the know-how to ask for help or to ask for things that they need, he or she needs. And this is what I tend to see quite a bit of. So doctor gets all fired up about a new program, a new system, a new technology that they want to integrate into the practice. And they set up a really awesome bonus system. And it gets a little tricky with bonus systems, especially if I'm a hygienist who doesn't know how to calculate my production, who doesn't know how to calculate goals or set targets, and who's keeping accountability with these targets. Are we monitoring and tracking our production? So once you get going with something like this, doctor starts offering a bonus system. The team's not seeing it. They're not seeing that cash in the bank. So they start to lose morale. So ideally, we look at those three things. And again, this is no way trying to throw shade at doctor or hygiene. It's really meant to kind of ask yourselves, where am I? Where's the breakdown? What can be improved so that we can either improve communication, start setting foreseeable targets so that we do see the end goal and we're reaching our goals, or how can I revamp my hygiene program so that we can start restructuring and move away from the Pro-Palace model. So not every hygienist wants to come back to hygiene, especially right now. We are still not out of the pandemic. I'm in Arizona actually, so I've traveled to Texas quite a bit, and there are all these hotspots still. So definitely, if you're somebody that is not able to provide the top-notch PPE, that can definitely put fear into a hygienist. But in any case, and this is Edith, the hygienist from Instagram. So Edith, if you're watching, hello, I love you. So again, this isn't meant to say what is a loss leader as far as on a negative connotation. This is not meant to poke holes into hygiene. This is really meant to say every hygienist is great, but how can we really incorporate the business know-how so that we can improve? So the loss leader model is actually a thing. So even though in dentistry, dentists kind of use it as a negative connotation, it actually is a strategy that multi-million-dollar grocery stores, companies use. So this means that you're selling products usually, actually, have you ever wondered why the milk is in the back of the store? So when you're selling milk, there's not a huge return on investment or production from purchasing that milk, keeping it in-house, storing it, and selling it to the consumer. So that being said, since it has such a low margin, they use it as a means to get people in the store. So in order to get to the milk, you have to pass all of the other more high value, more high dollar items in hopes that you will purchase other items on the way and not just come in for a quick gallon of milk. So doctors, in the same sense, when they refer to or when they regard a hygienist as a loss leader, more than likely they are using the hygienist as the hygiene services, the cleaning, as the means of getting those patients in. Of course, everybody wants to have their teeth cleaned when they come to the dentist. So hygienists, sadly, we don't have control over that model. There really isn't anything we could do to change it. What we can do is bring an awareness to what type of practice are we working in. Are we very insurance driven? Are the patients groomed to be very cost conscious and insurance conscious, whereas they're looking at what is insurance cover? I don't want to proceed with this treatment if my insurance is not going to cover it. And really looking at what's our marketing level. So if you're not saying that if your ad is in the Dandy Dime or Penny Saver that you are a loss leader promoter, but more so we really want to look at how are we marketing ourselves to the public and what does that mean as far as hygiene. So the same way hygienists get a bad rap, doctors also get a negative name. So a lot of times we think of dentists as not full-on oral physicians. We don't understand fully all the stress that goes into opening up a dental practice, building a practice. And really, anytime doctors look to hire a consultant or bring in technology, more than likely they want you to use it. More than likely, if you're buying a laser, they want you to use it. And So I find when I go in to work with teams, I have to be that voice. I have to be that, that motivator, because the doctor, not that you don't have the communication skills, you just may not have the time to fully sit down and set that overall standard. So if you guys are at home taking notes, I would love for you to write down, how am I relaying my expectations to the team? So let's look at some fallacies that kind of feed this loss leader myth. One, hygienists don't want to work on commission. That's kind of a dirty word in hygiene. And we often think, since it's so stigmatized, if you see a hygienist that's commissioned and she's really rocking it and earning commission for the services he or she provides, a lot of times team members who don't understand the model or the motivation and drive in that hygienist, they might think that he or she is only producing for the money. That's not always true, and that certainly wasn't true for me when I was in clinical hygiene. Another thing that really sticks out to me is the doctor pays me. Actually, the doctor does not pay me. So the money that a dental practice produces, it comes directly from the patients. So I use the slogan, learn more, earn more, because when you invest in a high dollar skill, like say laser certification, definitely is something that you can utilize to go back and grow production for your practice. So that was something that really resonated with me when I started stepping into the space of receiving training, receiving consulting as a dental hygienist. So what is leadership? Well, a lot of times doctors are too busy, too stressed out, don't have the time to really sit the hygiene team or even the assistant team down and communicate that expectation and build that relationship. Oftentimes they put it on a manager, and there are some amazing managers out there, but in some cases, you might find that the manager doesn't have the eloquent communication skills to build and empower a team and get them motivated to move, to work, to the newer standards that may be adopted in the practice. So really think about how you're communicating and motivating your team to kind of get on board. So when it comes down to nuts and bolts, I want to focus on areas 2 and 3, thinking, am I specifically and clearly stating what I expect the team to do? And actually, as I stepped up into the entrepreneurship role and I went to have my first website developed, I was working with a professional that was from overseas. And you're telling these professionals to make certain changes or adjustments to your website, bring your vision to life. And if you say make it big, they're going to make it big. So I want you guys to think, how have you communicated something and it may or may not have been received in the way that you wanted it to be? So that's when I realized, I think if I'm going to move forward with this entrepreneurship stuff, I might have to develop some better communication skills before I do. Secondly, training. So anytime you incorporate a new technology or even incorporate a new marketing plan, any changes that are made, people need to be trained. And I know starting as an assistant in this field, how important it was for me, and especially my learning style, because I know myself, I like seeing things written down step by step. And when you do that, that makes it scalable, that makes it replicable. That means that as I learn the system better, I can then start training someone else and alleviating that pressure off of the doctor. So essentially, everything is a training. Everything is a step-by-step process. Everything is a system and protocol. So we hear consultants saying systems and protocols, systems and protocols. So just to use an example, we were doing a talk on implants not too long ago, and doctors came into this boot camp learning to do all on 4, all on 6 cases, and moving forward, they were going to have to rely on the hygienist to help take care of these patients for long term, take care of these new prostheses so they get the best return on them. So I asked the doctors, what is your criteria for taking care of this, this new treatment for this patient, this new prosthetic? And everybody was able to verbalize it, but no one admitted that they had it written on paper. So again, if I'm your hygienist and you're working with high value treatments, I want to know how I can support you. I want to know everything from how you diagnose to what's the aftercare for these treatments. So again, everything becomes a system. And we're most familiar with our Prophy and our hygiene protocol. So essentially we break our hygiene hour into 20-minute intervals. For the first 20 minutes, we're looking at what are my assessments? What diagnostics am I using? How am I diagnosing Perio? Then the next 20 minutes belongs to the treatment delivery. Am I using technology? Am I using tools? What instruments am I using? And then the last portion of the cleaning, or the appointment, excuse me, the treatment appointment, is really the re-enrollment. How am I reiterating what was done today? How am I motivating that patient to better practice? And really, how am I encouraging them to come back and see me again? So really, I want us to regard hygiene as repeat business, because they come to see us more often sometimes than patients see the doctor. Everything is a system. How we communicate to patients, how we assess, how we identify disease. So hygiene, as you're at home listening, I want you to think about, okay, what is my step-by-step process from start to finish? From the moment you pick up the probe, what is your mind thinking? Where do you begin? What do you document first? Do you have somebody helping you with that? When you identify and you see that the patient needs SRP, or the patient needs fluoride therapy or laser, how do you communicate that to the patient? So everything becomes systemized. One other thing I want to make a note of is, how are we scheduling to production? This is not something that was taught in school. No one went over with me, how do I schedule to production? And I'll be honest with you, when I teach laser cert, I ask, let's see a show of hands. How many of you know what your daily production goal is? And I can tell you that about 25% of the room will raise their hand. So hygienists, please go back and ask your doctor, what is your daily production goal? Docs, if you haven't clearly stated that to your hygienist, please go over that with them. Tell them what the daily goal is, and really work with your manager, and everybody should be working together to make everybody should work together to create a schedule that's going to be ideal for their day. So for me, I know personally that I don't want to see 12 patients a day. I like getting my standard hygiene hour, and I actually really like doing scalings, because that's when I get to use my laser, of course. But I also am trained to do other treatments in the practice. I know how to make night guards. I know how to open up the conversation of orthodontics. I know how to find restorative care for the doctor. So really, there's a lot of opportunity for me to grow my production, even though I'm only seeing 5 to 7 patients a day. So what does that really mean for me? So when I can design my day and be more in control of my schedule and have energy at the end of the day to go home and play with my daughter, that's a win-win for me. So I'm highly motivated by lifestyle. I'm highly motivated by having the ability to have energy at the end of the day for my family. So I really want you guys to start thinking, as you level up in your career, what kind of lifestyle, what kind of team culture do I want to create, and what kind of schedule do I need to meet those goals? I will come back to this more than once in this program. It's a step-by-step thing. If you're thinking about opening up a practice, or maybe you have already started a practice, same with hygiene. No matter if you've been out of the game for a while, or if you're perhaps an older hygienist that's thinking about learning a new skill like laser or like iTero scanning, definitely think about, what do you stand for? Why would you want to learn that skill? Talk to the doctor and see what kind of vision, what kind of goals can you set together, and setting it up so that you guys can achieve those goals. Let's take a second right now, guys. I know you guys are listening on the live. Tag a leader, tag a hygiene leader, tag a front office manager, that's amazing. Tag a doctor that's a true mentor and a leader to you, because everybody needs that encouragement, especially right now when we're trying to come out of this very, very rough time. So we'll move into the second portion of this program. How is dentistry a business? So of course we're a business, but as a hygienist, I'll have to be honest, I didn't think of it in such a way when I was just doing clinical hygiene and hadn't stepped into the CE space or training space yet. So really, there are multiple roles within multi-million-dollar companies, and it takes a village. It takes a big group of people to spearhead these particular roles. And oftentimes doctors are juggling all of these roles. You're all the things in the beginning, especially when you set out to start your practice. So when I first started, and I would love for you guys to kind of Google some of these terms, but when I first started, I was a solopreneur. I was a solopreneur in the op, which meant I lacked the communication skills. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to set my ideal day or schedule to production. And I was using outdated tools and systems that weren't really going to get my practice to the next level. So I want you guys to think the more hygienists you have, it doesn't always mean more revenue. You can be an influencer in the op, and I really want you guys to think of yourselves as an entrepreneur. That means you're an entrepreneur in the business. So the hygiene department is its own little subsect in itself. You are your own provider. Of course, you work very closely with the doctor to set up expectations, but you deliver treatments, you deliver services, you are the product, okay? You are the product, and the cleanings, the prophy, the gingivitis prophy, scaling and root planings, those are the services. Laser is the service. So this being said, how you go with this is really just based on what motivates you. I knew that I was highly motivated to reach goals as a team. I'm very team oriented. Even though I didn't know how to ask for help, I definitely wanted to work more closely with my assistants. I wanted to work more closely with the doc, learn their system so that I can build restorative on their side. So I'm very purpose-driven as far as helping others, and I also want to improve myself. So I'm always on the path of improvement. So really go through these and think about what resonates with you. So you might see start with why and all these motivational pieces, and you might even see a lot of consultants start with the DISC personality profile. I think it's helpful, but I'd rather you focus on your character. I'd rather you focus on, okay, what little neuroses do I have that kind of drive my day and the way I function throughout the day? So I'll be honest, when I was in the dental space, I was very logistical. Okay, I had to figure, how am I going to get this done before I even start to do it? So I was a planner. So definitely think about those things. You're not crazy. It just means that maybe you're somebody who's a logistics thinker. There are others who are very visionary. They see the end goal. They are not quite certain how you're going to get there, but they know for certain that they're going to get the job done. So definitely have some fun really thinking about what are your attributes? What are the key things that really drive your character? Not personality, but your character and the way you kind of function throughout your day. Because the way you function in business is the way you show up in life, and that's the truth. So as I was growing and recognizing my skills, my attributes, not just focusing on the weaknesses, okay? I want you guys to focus on the positive. We've had enough negativity for the year. So instead of taking an inventory and focusing on what do I need to fix, start really thinking about what am I really, really good at? So that's really when you start to think in possibility. What opportunity can I create for myself within my dental business as a second in command, as a COO of the dental office? How can I work more closely, improve my communication so that I can reach more goals and in turn make more money? So I want you guys to really be okay with the idea of making more money. And if you're not, that's definitely something that's going to hinder you. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a sec as we move on. So we can go into the depths of all of these pieces and liken it into the dental space, particularly for hygiene. And we do this in my Power Sales Unleashed course. But for now, I want you guys to focus on operations, sales, product development, and services. So I want you guys, again, to think of yourself hygiene as the product. And essentially, doctors, the dentists, you guys and gals, female dentists, can regard yourselves as the product too. The patients come to see you. We build a relationship with our patients, and that trust and rapport. So essentially, product development, in this fun way of saying it, is getting continuing education, is improving communication skills, is creating systems and functions, and that will kind of go into our operations. Operationally, what can work more smoothly in my practice? What little tweaks or enhancements can we make? So again, we're not going in and saying, wipe everything out and start from scratch. It's let's focus on what's really good and what's working so that we can really start creating more efficiencies in our schedule. Next, I would love for you guys to make a list of all of your services and looking at what do you charge for them, because when another question I ask in the course is, how much do you guys charge for fluoride? How much do you think your patients would want to pay for laser? Sometimes people have no clue. And again, I want you guys to start priming yourselves and grooming yourselves and thinking like a business and really taking control of those services that you are meant to offer, really thinking of functioning as an entrepreneur. So let's say that we're looking at laser, okay? Every laser operates mostly the same. What will change is its portability, cost. Some have more features that others don't, other accessory pieces. I'm not, and again, in full disclosure, I don't represent one laser company over the other. My goal is to get you trained on whatever laser you have in your practice. So as the hygienist, as the entrepreneur, I would talk to my doctor and we would go through this. I would act as a chief information officer, CIO, if you will, and I would do the research. What laser companies are out there? Who can train me? What are the laws and regulations in my state? What kind of safety am I going to have to incorporate into this practice so everybody knows? And then how can we really have fun with the marketing campaigns? So we would want to calculate a break even. So what this means is we're looking at the cost of the device, cost of training, and looking at what are we going to charge per treatment. Plus or minus, we're not, at this point, we're not talking about going through your P&Ls and debt, profit and loss statement, and looking at what you can afford or what you can't afford. We're really looking at, okay, what's the cost of this service? What's the cost of the training? And how many treatments am I going to have to do to get to the point that I'm paying my training and technology off? So that is something that I would start by if I'm a hygienist and I'm thinking I want to incorporate any technology into the practice. Maybe that's a Cavitron tip or a new Cavitron system. So then you would kind of look at, okay, roughly what is the market value? What do other doctors in my neighborhood, in my area, in my target demographic, what are they charging for these treatments? So if we're looking at calculating an ROI or return on investment, that's the number we're going to get after we've covered our loss. We're looking at just the top 2 hygiene treatments that ideally you'd most likely do before the other treatments. So, or before incorporating the others like herpetic lesions and the other laser therapies that you're able to do. So just focusing on these 2, these numbers are actually very, very low. Okay, so down the line, I have a better gauge on what you guys can charge and what is the standard and customary rate. But this is profound. So if I'm a hygienist and I'm making, let's say standard is $80,000 a year, and I incorporate a treatment that's literally going to take me about 5 minutes. And I'm working 4 days a week. That's covering a substantial fraction of my overall salary or annual income. Okay, so this is how you can afford to get a raise. So looking at, again, how much treatment am I doing as far as SRP? That could be an additional easy $20,000 a year if I'm just doing 1 SRP a day. But what's the problem? What's the issue? Not problem, but what's the what's the holdup, okay? What keeps us from kind of moving forward? And it's the idea of sales. For whatever reason, and doctors, you're guilty too, for whatever reason, we feel like if the patient has to pay or come out of pocket, not everybody, but in some cases, we are very uncomfortable presenting the idea of fees and costs. Now, I want you to think about, are you from the old school, which is, oh, we shouldn't discuss money in the op. The provider should not discuss fees. So that's one thing I would love for you guys to consider. Again, there's no right or wrong. Just consider, what is your system right now? How do you guys feel about that? Secondly, it's, do I know how to present value to this treatment? So when we're in fee-for-service dentistry, that means insurance does not contribute to this treatment. You do essentially have to sell it. In this term, I would love for you guys to just understand the features and benefits of your products and services. You, again, are the product. Your feature is you're amazing. You know how to communicate. You know how to build rapport. You know how to provide the best cleaning and treatment possible. And I say cleaning because that's what's rolling off the tongue now. Of course, it's a treatment. And you want to really know, what are the benefits of this treatment? So again, we're playing off of, let's say we ask our doc, hey doc, I want a laser. He's going to ask you, well, how much does it cost? And $10,000, I don't think so. So that sounds like a huge investment, right? So you're gonna let him know, absolutely not. It's gonna be okay, doc. This is what we're using it for. And culturally, I would love for you guys to be able to come together. So this is actually a slide from my certification course, and we start off with, what is your purpose behind starting laser? Because I have worked in other environments, dental environments, where it was all numbers driven. And that's not good or bad, but for me, because I know myself, I don't want to be so numbers driven. I want to be able to just look at my patient pressure free and provide the treatment that I see they need, okay? So again, it's okay to say you want to increase production, but I don't want to be pressurized. I don't want to be in trouble if I don't reach my production goal that day. So doctors might say, I want to decrease healing time. We don't want to hurt our patients, right? So there's many reasons. So again, the first thing I want you guys to start with is, why do we want to bring laser into the practice? It's okay to say we want a win-win for our patients, where it's going to produce additional revenue streams and also enhance the healing and therapy. So this is what we would see. Typical Perio patient, okay? So typical Perio patient, and we go through our system and protocol and process of assessment, gathering data. Side note, I would love for you to go back and ask your docs, ask your hygienists, what is our criteria for an SRP? That's also something that's not clearly communicated. And sometimes it stems from lack of mistrust. Sometimes it stems from doctor not knowing how we go about diagnosing perio. In any case, definitely talk about this, because that's a huge piece. Could be the difference between running a prophy palace, if you will, and running a really successful and productive hygiene department. So again, if you're thinking about incorporating laser and getting the best usage out of it, if you see that you're doing prophy all day long, more than likely you're probably not going to see the return that others see if they were optimized in their assessment process. So then we go through and we do laser bacterial reduction. So we're basically taking the laser and we're using what we call photobiomodulation or light-based treatment, and we're running it along the pocket. Patients are not going to want to hear you say photobiomodulation. So we definitely want to make sure that we understand how to communicate the value of what this laser is doing in a way and in terms that the patient is going to understand. So that essentially, that exchange of information downloaded from my brain to the patient is a sale, it's communication, it's building value. So again, I really want you guys to be okay with what you're doing, and the patients do appreciate being educated, and I know hygiene knows this. So look at the tissue. So this is a case study, and normally we don't cross the midline, which you'll learn when you take a course. So even though this patient still has calculus on this side, the tissues are already starting to heal. So when we train, we want to regard laser as medicine, as therapeutic, as natural, topical, light-based therapy. So what does that sound like to the patient? It's holistic, it's organic, it's something that's going to help heal me, okay? So we really want to look at that. And this is day 3. So of course, not everybody is going to have amazing results from day 1 to day 3, but this is just a great example of how laser actually is pretty amazing at being a natural therapeutic versus a chemotherapeutic. What are we using currently to treat biofilm, irrigating, and disinfection, decontamination? Usually we're using a chemotherapeutic like chlorhexidine or a medicament like Arrestin. And again, we're not saying that those things are no longer useful, but we're just looking at products and benefits, which feature is going to be more beneficial to my patient depending on what their budget is, depending on what time we have, depending on what their assessment, what we find in their assessment. So I want you guys to ask yourselves, what business am I really in? So as I stepped into the business owner role, I had to ask myself, I'm not just training on lasers, okay? I'm not just educating and certifying people. I want to inspire change. I want to be a change agent. I want to really highlight the benefits of what this can do for you as a hygiene entrepreneur, what it can do for a doctor in your practice. Okay, so again, rather than saying we're in, I'm a cleaner or a loss leader, I am in the business of risk and disease management. I'm in the business of creating healthy smiles. So really think about what you're truly doing. So this is one case that we treated. Again, we saw amazing results with this. This person initiated therapy in January, and by the end of the year, they were down to 3s and 2s. So on a scientific level, laser is pocket reduction therapy. What I start with in educating my patient is, what does a deep pocket mean? Okay, what does a deep pocket mean, and what's living and growing and festering down in those deep pockets? Aggressive disease-causing bacteria. So the goal is not to eradicate the disease, because we know it's chronic degenerative. There is no cure. And it's important to reiterate that as the patient starts to heal and see better results and be more stabilized. So again, it's coming back full circle with, how do we explain the long-term care for this patient? They're not free and cured of their periodontal disease. They're stable as a result of them coming in frequently, us using our adjunctive laser therapy that again is a win-win for both, because laser is meant to specifically treat and perform pocket reduction. So again, what are the features, benefits, and advantages of my treatments, of my services, of my technology? We do the same thing for Arrestin. What are the features, benefits, and advantages? What's the substantivity? How long does this last? What does it cost the patient? So all these things. So again, we're not just looking at hygiene, we're looking at doctors' treatments too. So essentially, I would love for you guys to communicate your services. Doctors, what top treatments are you doing in your practice that you would love for your hygienist to be the second set of eyes on? And if the hygienist identifies that this patient is a possible candidate, what diagnostics, what questions need to be asked so that we can get the ball rolling on that treatment, and vice versa. So this is a way that we not only use laser to perform the treatment, perform the ablation, or perform the surgical restoration, but also to enhance healing. So laser is highly medicinal and therapeutic. So again, we look at what is training. Let's say we get a training and we're kind of trying to decide what's going to be our general return. So we look at hygiene as a whole. So again, I love laser because it becomes a platform. It becomes a jump off point to discuss other treatments. So for example, if I'm talking about gingivitis, patients here for a prophy today and regular recare, and I find that they have marginal inflammation, they have gingivitis. So that's gonna allow me to jump off and talk more about any comorbidities, any other areas that is causing this inflammation. And when I'm looking at root desensitization, that's pretty much my segue into talking about varnish. So I tell the patient products and features of the varnish. Because you have hypersensitivity, I would like to use my laser treatment to help desensitize the nerve in that tooth so you feel more comfortable. And I'd also like to use a varnish therapy. It's a fluoride vitamin so that I can help enhance this treatment and help reduce cavity as well. So it's going to be a win-win for that. So we all have our way, and maybe off the cuff, I'm not like exactly giving you exactly what I would say, but definitely really think about how do you present treatment? How do you present value? And I love doing, I love it when you have a laser that can do whitening or TMJ therapy, because again, let's say the patient was in the doctor's side doing 2-hour appointment, restorative, open for a long period of time. If you know that patient has the potential for TMJ pain or crepitus popping, then you can potentially talk to them about doing a TMJ post-op therapy, and then also opening up the conversation for more holistic care, more long-term care like orthodontics and so on. So there's a lot here. So instead of calling it surgical, we call it restorative. We always want to watch our language. And again, if the doctor's not going to see a huge return on investment for laser, because there's only so much incidence or there's only so many patients that may benefit from a frenectomy. But in most cases, hygiene does highly dominate. So again, systems, how do we overcome these objections? So that's also another protocol. So how would you like it, doc, if you were in your side of the office doing a root canal and I have to come grab you because my patient's not letting me take x-rays? Or vice versa, I'm in hygiene and this patient is just in total utter denial as to why their gums bleed, and I need the doctor to come in and help me explain what the deep cleaning is and why they need it. So again, I want you guys to be empowered. I want us to move away from having to get the doctor to back us up, okay, and really just focus on what do I need to talk to about how do I need to present to this patient in such a way, or relate or communicate with them in such a way that they understand. And it may not be today. Okay, but as long as I've communicated value, I told them what our standard of care is, I've done my job, because we can't always control what patients do. So essentially, anytime we have new team members come on board, we definitely want to really create an onboarding process. A lot of times recruiting, which is another aspect of the business, is done by either a manager or the doctor in some cases. Very rarely is a hygienist charged with hiring another hygienist. So definitely, I would love to see you guys take the lead on that and decide, okay, what does my office stand for? And how can I set up systems that are replicable? How can I create templates that are systematic and consistent across the whole hygiene team, so that when we start to grow, and that's what will happen when you start to get more of these fundamentals down, how do we want to grow and in what way? And then you can start being a little bit more picky about how to hone in on who's going to be a best fit for you guys, rather than hiring a body, right? And I know hygiene is kind of scarce right now because there's a lot of hygienists that are still scared to come back, and that's okay. So we just have to know how to kind of overcome this. So please, those of you at home, thank you guys for listening still. We're almost done. We're on the last leg of it. But tag a hygienist, docs, who takes ownership in your practice. Tag a hygienist who has just done an amazing job rolling with the punches, just really kind of taking charge of anything you throw his or her own way. Because again, I would love for you to hand me a pizza party. Give me a pizza party, give me a pat on the back. But definitely words of affirmation, telling me I'm doing a good job directly, really goes a long way as well. So definitely, ladies and gentlemen at home, think about how do you best receive accolade? How do you best receive that that thanks and praise? So that definitely will start to change the culture of your practice. So if you are one of the few, hopefully, that have regarded hygiene as a loss leader, I want you guys to think about what you're willing to pay, okay, to invest in that hygienist, invest in your team. So think about it, is this person with me for the long haul? Have they been here for a while? Is it a revolving door? Either way, I want you guys to think about what is your brand. Start honing in on what you stand for, because we all drill, fill, and bill essentially, but how we do it, the way we communicate is our brand. The way we set up our standard of care is our brand. And it doesn't always mean the entire team wears black scrubs, everybody looks consistent. No, it's the way we talk, it's the way we communicate, it's the way we act. Also, and tell the team your vision. The best way to create influence and motivate the team is to create that vision. Bring them into your dream. Do you want to own multiple offices? Do you want just the one office? Do you want to grow from one hygienist to 5 or 3? Usually it's 1 doctor to 3. Do you want to bring an associate on someday? Again, do you want to start taking Fridays off so you can be with your family? What is your vision for your lifestyle and your style of practice? And then set up systems around that. And it starts by asking, what are your intangibles? Again, focusing on your positive skills, not the things that we need to work on. We'll continue to work on that. So this is the doctor who knows that she has a lot invested in the practice. She has every piece of technology, cone beam, lasers, iTero scan. She runs a more boutique style practice. She cannot just hire anybody. Not just anybody can come in to her practice. Who's answering the phones? If she's spending thousands of dollars on marketing for these specific niche patients who are seeking tori removal in a general setting, the front office is also a system and training of how they handle and get that patient on the schedule, right? So that's something that you guys really want to think about. Technology and training, they go hand in hand. It's necessary. So the better one person and 2 people are trained on a system, the easier it becomes, more replicable. So actually, this doctor is a close friend. She's a very well-respected mentor to me. So we've created this program called the Rockstar Hygienist. So it's essentially technology training, verbal skills, understanding insurance, really how can I thrive in this practice, because she would be willing to pay any hygienist what they deserve if they were able to keep up with the technology training and the flow of her style of delivery. So what technology are you guys using in your practice? And do you guys have a little laminate or a little book on how to use the laser, how to turn it on, how to set it? Do you guys have access to any how-to videos? Because usually all these technologies come with, but again, we're hands-on learners. We learn in real time. So definitely think about what's your system of training. And I want you guys to also think about what is your relationship to money. So usually if you're worried about how are we going to cover cost, if you're wondering, you know, can we afford this? Is my hygienist or doctor going to be on board with this change that I want to create? Okay, so really get to the fundamentals of business and systems, then reverse engineer, look around and see how long do I see myself in this practice, and do I want to invest? Because again, on the flip side, going back to the loss leader thing, I've had some doctors pay for my course and ask for a refund because their hygienist didn't want to show up to the training, or the hygienist, not a refund, but they asked for what can be done because the hygienist, they paid for their certification, but they left the practice. So again, before you invest, I really want you guys to get a team commitment. Okay, and that's not just with laser, that's with any change you're wanting to create. And think in the positive, because I've never met a high caliber hygienist. I've never met a high caliber assistant or amazing manager that doesn't want to be challenged, that doesn't want to grow and evolve and have an opportunity for professional development. So I want you guys to ask yourselves, and this is for docs and hygienists, why haven't I moved forward with fill in the blank? What do you want to see for your practice, and what is the immediates that you can do? So as you've learned, laser is actually the easiest investment you can make because you almost see a quicker return with it. But again, it's going to cost you, it's not always money that we're looking at it. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's, you know, the investment in the team. So what would it really be? So I want you guys to start here. I want you just reiterating and kind of bringing things back full circle as we kind of wind down this program is start with, how do we diagnose perio? Perio is the bread and butter of our practice. So, or excuse me, scaling and root planing is the bread and butter of your hygiene practice. So definitely I want you guys to get clear in communication on how we diagnose for that. Also, what is my process and system for going out and looking for new technology? Okay, this is how I bring it to my doc when I want to go from using the not so good varnish to the better varnish. Anytime I want to get something better, a new product, a new technology in my practice, I bring forth this information in such a way that the doctor can see it. It's tangible. They see data, they see numbers, okay? So definitely think about that. And I've never had a doctor turn me down for anything that I wanted to improve and enhance my hygiene department. Clinical systems. So your process of new patient exam is a system. I would start there. So a lot of times we want to promote and market for new patients, but we bring these new patients in and they don't result in any treatment. They don't result in any services being rendered. We don't seal the deal because we have lacking in how we incorporate and onboard these patients, these clients, these customers, if you will. So definitely look at, how do we bring in a patient from start to finish? Do we give them an office tour? Do I talk about the doctor and how all his or her accolades, where they went to school, where they're from, just giving some background knowledge and all those little items that make a patient feel more comfortable and at ease because they're getting to know you, or seeming like they're getting to know you on a more personal level before we start looking into product and service delivery, okay? So we have a lot of fun with that. And then also the sales stigma. We got to get over that ASAP. We have to really not think of it as a sale. We're communicating value, and the patient can decide what they want to, how they want to move forward based on how you've communicated that value with authority and clarity, okay? And then we look at top recruitment. How do we recruit for people that are really going to help drive our practice? So essentially, I'm asking you to be like McDonald's. So if you know anything about McDonald's model, they're highly systemized. Anybody who starts in that practice or in that fast food restaurant, they go through training. I actually worked at McDonald's when I was in high school. So I know that before you graduate from the fry machine to the register, you have to be trained on it. And you have to prove your competency that you can go from handling a fry maker to money. So again, I'm poking fun, but think about, what are you capable? What's your capacity right now? Are you ready for scalability? Because of course, everybody wants $1 million practice, but they may not have the systems to sustain that growth. And then it becomes potentially a toxic culture of no accountability, no responsibility, and no commitment. So then it becomes a revolving door. Unfortunately, McDonald's is geared for that. Because they're so systemized. So people come and go. It doesn't really slow down operations and efficiency, and it doesn't cut into the bottom line or production. So when you do bust that myth and you see that hygienists can potentially be an amazing asset to the practice, now you look at, okay, what is the incentive package, okay? Because again, I love a pizza party, but I would like to go on a trip someday, or whatever the case may be, whatever drives you, okay? There's no right or wrong to say, I want to get paid for the high value services that I provide, okay? So we're looking at all of our salary, all the way down to co-ownership. Yes, in Arizona, hygienists are very, very fortunate. Thank you, ADHA, for pushing that we can own 100% of practices. I know in California it's 30%, and there are some states that are not allowable to that. But definitely look at this. And if you're a doctor going down this list and you're reading it and you're like, profit sharing, and that kind of makes you feel a little icky inside, I want you to really think about that, okay? I want you to think about that, because that could be a negative mentality. So looking at the bonus system and making those, it doesn't have to be that. We don't have to go to the very end of the line here. We could just start by maybe increasing the hourly wage. Maybe I've seen the piecework system work great. So in that system, let's say we're using laser bacterial reduction, which is roughly around a $55 treatment. You, the doctor, might incentivize me to do that treatment by offering me $5 out of that 55. Okay, and it is a win-win. I didn't mention this earlier, but the cost of a laser tip after you get to your break-even point is around $8 to $12. So if you're charging more than $25 for a treatment, it's still profitable, okay, to give your hygienist that much. So again, what motivates you? What drives you? Always ask yourself, what business am I in? Okay, we're in the business of health, we're in the business of beauty, we're in the business of creating smiles. And that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much and again, thank you, Dr. Glenbow, for giving me this opportunity to present to your community of thriving, nifty, thrifty docs. You guys are all about dollars and cents. So I'm hopefully you guys can reach out to me if you have any questions about this program. So thank you.